Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anthropology 120, Biological Anthropology. A few things I want to talk about to sort of introduce you to the course, sort of get you on the right start. Let's go to the syllabus right off the bat. If you could, if you're in the Canvas browser right now, go over to the upper left-hand side and you'll see the syllabus link. You can actually right-click on that and bring up a separate tab for it and have a look at the syllabus. And I'll discuss some of the more salient points in that. I'll pretend you've already paused it here for a second. Okay, hopefully you're back. All right. When looking at the syllabus, some of the most important things are my contact information and the contact times. And I'll tell you what we can do to make those flexible to sort of benefit you the best. Um, getting a hold of me, there is a cell phone number there. That's really the best way to get a hold of me. And voice is excellent because, if you're reading something or watching something, you have a question right there on the spot, you can just hit me up and I can discuss it with you. Of course, I can also do text messages. It just takes a long time to do text back and forth. Getting the answers to you want, at least refined, boxing them into the exact things, information that you need, is just likely to take longer. All right. Next, about the contact hours. Traditionally there is the standard pattern. Monday through Friday. 8 to 5 during the day. But here's the thing: that I'll be happy to take your phone calls or to enter your messages. Up until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It really just depends on what I'm doing. I've got kids running around. I've got spouse to sort of like to take care of and do the social things you have to do. I don't want to do them. I get dragged out on all this stuff, and I'm so busy with other things in the evening. I may not get to it. So if you try to call me like at night and I don't answer, you're gonna say, "Oh, Mercer got really mad. Go try to call him." No, that's not it, because I actually do enjoy your phone calls. It's just I have other things going on. All right, so you can try in the evenings if that works best for you. Additionally, the same thing for the weekends. It doesn't matter to me. Weekends aren't some sort of special holy time for me or something like that. It just depends on what kind of activities they have going on. And many times, what happens is a student try to give me a call like on Saturday morning, and I won't have the time to take it, but I know it's there. And sometime, usually in the Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, I'll be able to return the call. So no, that I will get back to, even on the weekends. It's going to take a little bit longer for me. All right. Next, now, as far as what the course is about, there it is right in front of you. This is biological anthropology. In other words, what it is to be biologically human, in an evolved sense. What's our place in life? What are we doing here? What is this life that we have, and how has it arisen? And it's to give us a better appreciation about it and the facts too. So that's really what, in short, it's about. Despite what we call the subject learning outcomes, what you're supposed to take out of the course, really, it's what it is to be biologically human. Now, one of the things that students that are really interested in is how am I going to be graded, right? And I think that's really important too, because everyone's looking at sort of, what sort of things you have to do to accomplish whatever goals you have. Particularly, it's the grade. People say, I want this grade. What do I have to do to get it? Well, this is how the course is set up and is going to work. Now, before this actual term right here, biological anthropology was separate from the laboratory courses. You would sign up for one, a lecture, and then you would sign up for the lab, and those courses were treated separately. Well, what we've done is decided to collapse those and put them into one course, so one 4-unit course. So you're graded on all the content and all comes together to one grade. There should be no negatives or positives either way with this. I don't think it's gonna change your outcome for your GPA one way or the other, to tell you the truth. But I'll show you how the course is going to be divided between those sections, because the lectures were 3 units and the labs were technically one. And that's really how the points are going to be sort of divided. In the lecture course, you're graded out of 300 points, and out of the lab 100. So altogether, that's 400 points. So you can see the lab is still really recognizes roughly only about a third or a quarter of your actual grade, where it actually should be. Now, let's go right to the lecture and talk more about how those 300 points figure into grade and what you have to do to get those. All right. There are 4 exams in the course. 4 quizzes, they call them on Canvas. They're really exams. I wish I could change that name to midterm exam, but it's a software that's proprietary, so it's always called quizzes. All right. So we use quizzes and midterms sort of interchangeably. So there are 4 of these, and each one of them is worth 100 points. So there you go. You have 400 points. we were only graded out of 300 points. And how that works is, of the first of your 3 midterms, the first 3, not the final, the first 3, I will drop your lowest score. Boom, there it goes. So you have 300 points remaining on what you're graded out of for the lecture. And that tends to work out for you because sometimes you might get to certain, sections of the course where it may be too abstract or you're not feeling it, or if something else is going on in your life and you don't do well, I don't think you should be penalized for that. So I'm just going to drop your lowest midterm right off the bat. The final exam is going to stay, and here's the reason. It's not like the midterms. The midterms in general, the first midterms you're going to receive are multiple choice, true, false sort of exams, something you can do, in a half an hour real quick. But the final exam is one single question. And I'm going to give you 10 days, right to the end of the course to work on it. You have all the resources in the world open to you. You can do it's like cash cab, street shout outs, phone a friend. You can do whatever you want to do to answer that. And consult with whoever you want. So there's no reason why it's not going to be really, really good. And typically it is great. And that's really what most students look forward to that last big bump to push them over the grade that they want to get. Like say you're on the borderline of a B and you're looking for that A. Well, you hit that exam really hard and usually it'll do it for you. And that's the reason I don't drop it. And also additionally, make sure that the final exam has to be done to pass the class. It's so important that you answer this final question. I think you'll understand when I present the question to you. All right, it's kind of the carrot to keep you going through the class. Right. So other than that, in the lecture component, there's also 20 points worth of extra credit, and there'll be 2 viewing assignments, and I'll hand out a question on each one that I want you to answer. And if you answer it sufficiently, you'll get the full 10 points. If you give me a half a sentence and haven't seen it, you're going to get very many points. So again, you're never guaranteed the full points. But if you put a pretty good heartfelt effort into it, most people always do get the full points to that. Now, lastly, there's another extra little 5 points, and that is to complete the course meet and greet. That's their first assignment, is where you can go in and say, talk to other students, post something about yourself, wonderful pictures of your life, things that you're interested in, and reply to people too. So it gets you a sense that we're not so isolated, that we are sort of a community, and it may be a good time for you guys to find old friends that you knew, right? That in the past, like, yeah, I know that person there in my class. I think it's a really good way to connect. So that's worth 5 points. So total of 305 points for the lecture. Now the laboratory, this is what it's going to be sort of entailing. There'll be 2 quizzes, and they're short, 10-point each quizzes or something like that. Just a few questions, 10 questions. You'll be 2 of those somewhere in the middle of the term. Then there are 8 laboratories, small laboratories, which I want little mini write-ups on, or answering some questions about the labs that you've done. Those are worth 5 points apiece, right? And then finally, there will be 1 project in which you're going to be doing, and they have the entire term to do it. And that's called an Earth Timeline Project, where you're going to be constructing, a timeline of Earth's history, all the way from 4.53 billion years ago to contemporary time, sort of outlining the changes in Earth and the sequence of life and how it's changing, leading all the way on up to us. And the information, of course, is designed to help you complete that and complete it quite well. And that's a major project. I believe it's worth 35 points. So altogether, you have 100 points, and you bring all that together with a lecture, and your overall grade will be taken out of 405 points. Basically along the lines between 90% above. Is an A, 80% above is a B, 70% above is a C, 60% above is a D, and the rest below. So traditionally, how my courses work grade-wise, and I don't expect to see any deviation this term, is that roughly about 45 to 50% of the students in my courses get Bs, 24 to 28% A, about 12% C's, and just about a 1 or 2% below, like a D or F. And those folks will generally just disappear on me. I don't know what happens to them in life, and I wish I didn't have to give them that grade, but regulations say that if I reach out, and I can't get any feedback from you, try to get you incomplete and you disappear, I sort of have to give you those low bottom grades. So please don't do that. If something happens to you, let me know so I can help you get out of the course, and I know how to shuffle the paperwork with the administration, sort of mitigate those low grades for you. Okay, so always stay in touch with me with that kind of stuff. All right, and a couple of things I want to say. So I'm going to do another sort of introduction to the laboratory course, and it will be in the modules, like right below this one, it'll say lab. So anything that deals with lab will be prefaced with lab, colon, and that will be the lab assignment. And they're intermixed with the lecture stuff. So you do the lecture material, and the next one might say lab, then you go to the lab. They're actually designed to sort of be done in sequence that way to really help you best learn. I designed the lab not as a separate class, but really to support the lecture class, to help you really do well on the lecture, because that's the bigger of the units. There's 3 units, right? So every assignment you do in lab should have a big bonus for you, in the lecture component. So if you keep up with both together, you're going to really do well in the course. All right. So when you scroll down through the syllabus, you're going to see the schedules. Now the schedules are bifurcated between the lecture, which is on top, and I'll go through module 1, 2, 3, and 4. And at the very bottom below the lecture stuff, you'll see the laboratory modules, module 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those are the activities you're going to be doing with the modules, right? I didn't want to put them all together because it gets very confusing when you see lab, lecture, lab, lecture, lab, lecture. I put them separate so you can see more clearly the organization of what's happening, okay? But in the actual modules in the course, they'll be interlaced together. You'll be alternating, you'll be doing laboratory activities and sort of lecture readings and viewings. Okay, all right. Now let's talk a little bit about the materials you're going to need for this term. Now for the lecture component, there is one, right here, there's only one book that you're required to actually purchase. And this right here is Daniel Lieberman's book, The Story of the Human Body. It's available, if you want to do paperback or ebook. I think there are some rentals now. You should go check those out. But as it is, this one's like full bar retail, like 17 bucks. That's brand spanking new. And used, it's got to be a lot less. And this book, we're not going to be using it for like a month or two. So, you don't need to buy it from the school bookstore. Save yourself some money, right? So you have some time to order this thing to find your best deal. All right. Now for the rest of the lecture class, there is another textbook, but it's free. It's an open source book, and it's called Explorations. In the syllabus, you'll see that, and you'll see a link to it. You can click on that, and you can actually go to their website. And their website has all the chapters available for you to look. And I also have a copy on PDF in which you can download the entire 768-page book on PDF if you want. It's totally free for you, right? And that book, we'll talk a little about this now. That book is more of a reference book. I mean, I think like every course should have a specialized encyclopedia. That's really what textbooks are. I mean, who in their right mind would sit around and just read a textbook, because they're really boring. There are places to go when you really need, to have specific sort of information on top of the lecture component to sort of help make things make sense. And that's really what that book is about. Now, that's not what this one was about. When we looked at Daniel Lieberman's book, it says the story. It's like a story. And it's really a pleasurable read. So I sort of don't consider it a textbook, but sort of a reader. This is the one where we really want to pay attention to. This is a solid reading book. The explorations text is more of a reference text when things aren't making sense to you. You can go and have a look for additional information in it. So I want you to be clear about that. One thing I really try not to do with my courses is overload them with reading. I'll tell you the truth why, is that when I was a student, I really hated all the reading they would just shoved out on me all the time. Like, was it really necessary, right? So I tried to devise the stuff that I think is high impact, high impact, and really get to you with as few words as possible. I think that's really important, because I know you guys have other classes going on, and gosh, no, right now with the coronavirus going, everyone's trying scrambling to make a living too. So I'm doing my best for you. Now, other than that, for the lecture component, there are a paper or two that I placed in PDF, short papers that have some really important information. And most of those papers are really to help you, do your final exam. So you don't have to go searching for information. You'll have all this information to choose from the course. So you won't have to do some big research thing to do a really good final exam, right? So that's one of the reasons I placed those also in the course, and I'll point those out when we get to those areas at the right time frame. All right. Now for the laboratory, there are two things that we need to get. The first book is this one called The Story of Earth, and it's by Robert Hazen. Again, it's another inexpensive book relatively. This one's full bar retail. It says $18. I know you can get this cheap for like half that. It's got to be used somewhere, like in Chegg or Amazon or somewhere. But I'll tell you what, with this one, we're going to start off with this book really quick. So if you haven't gotten this one yet, go ahead and put it in order right now. The faster you can get started reading on this book, the better that you are, because this is the one that really going to help us build our timeline of the Earth, right? The story of Earth, right? Has all that information in there for you to get started on that project, right? And lastly is a main laboratory manual. And this is for our 8 laboratory assignments in which we're going to be have laboratory experiments, but they're not really experiments, but laboratory activity book. This is Katie Soleri's book. And actually, this is not even, that's the old copy. This is the one that you want. And I want to show you this, okay? I think I did that for a reason I forgot, right? This is the old one. This the with the snow monkeys. This one is edition 1. Do not get edition 1. We want to get this one right here. We've got a picture of, look, it's a orangutan. It's a Borneo mango, it's a pygmy mango thing right here. So we have, and it actually makes a rain hat for us, so very clever, right? So this is biological anthropology, and a laboratory manual and workbook it says Elizabeth Flores Katie, so it's Katie Soleri. I used to work with her at Diablo Valley College. She's quite a great scholar. And this book was actually her PhD thesis. When she was at Cal, she wanted to, produce the best possible lab, so she decided to study how people learn. So this is her PhD thesis, and it came out to be quite well. It's even better than her first one because she got some peer review from guys like me and other instructors out there, and we refined it. And I think it's a pretty darn good book because it not only is it interesting labs for you, but it really helps reinforce the lecture. Now this one is out there in e-copy too. I know there's ebook on it, and there's rentals too, and of course the soft copy like this. Here's the deal: none of the labs in here you're going to be tearing out and submitting to me. Everything's going to be done electronic. Some questions that you're answering. So if you do buy something like this, I believe you can. You'll sell it back used too, because you're not going to be destroying the book in any way if you decide you want to get like a paperback. All right, okay. And that's it for the materials for the course. That's all you're going to need. All right. So here's what I want you to do at this point. All right, is get to work on that meet and greet. You go in there and meet some folks, and then start, on the very first assignment in chapter or module 1. And that's really discussing, what is anthropology? What is our breadth? What is our scope? And really, what is it that this discipline actually does that you're going to be learning about? Okay, so I will be discussing the course more in further videos. Most of the assignments in the modules you're going to see are going to be headed by some discussion like I'm talking to you now. And the reason for that, and the last thing I wanted to say, and I want to be aware of this, is this course is asynchronous. So I'm not going to be teaching this requiring you to be in front of a screen interacting with 50 little squares like on Zoom. I don't think people learn best that way, particularly during stressful times like the coronavirus here. It's just too hard to get everybody together at one time, and to really know what's going on, you really need to be there at one set time, and we just are not going to be doing that. So asynchronously. And lastly, and this is the point that I begin with about contact, because it's asynchronous, sometimes there isn't that immediate way to sort of answer questions like I've had some Zoom thing going on, which makes utilizing my cell phone number more important than ever. Okay, so don't be shy to call me whatsoever about any issues. I don't care if you're watching one of the films and like, what was that person talking about? And all of a sudden I get a phone call and they're right in the middle of a movie, because I would love that, because I know this material so well. I've been teaching this, for longer than most of you guys have been alive. I just know this stuff hands down. So I can cue into exactly where you're at and sort of what the issues are, and I can really, I think, help you the best, especially from an asynchronous sort of topic course. All right, let's get to work, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.